Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to explore mastering the HUD sales process. I'm thrilled to take you through essential strategies and insights that will empower you to navigate and succeed in selling HUD properties. Let's dive in. A HUD home is a residential property with 1 to 4 units that HUD acquires when an FHA-insured mortgage goes into foreclosure. This means the previous owner was unable to keep up with their mortgage payments, and as a result, HUD takes ownership of the home. Once HUD owns the property, they assign it to a field service company and an asset manager who oversee the property's care and sale. It's important to note that HUD REO properties are marketed based on their appraised value, so they aren't exclusively reserved for low-income buyers. This opens up opportunities for a wider range of potential homeowners and investors. In this section, I want to clarify the roles of two key players in HUD property management: the field service manager and the asset manager. First, the field service manager, or FSM, is the contractor responsible for the hands-on maintenance and preservation of the property. This includes tasks like inspecting the property, securing it, making limited cosmetic repairs, and ensuring ongoing upkeep to keep the property in good condition. On the other hand, the asset manager, or AM, focuses on the marketing and management side. Their job is to get the property listed and sold, which involves working with listing agents who actually put up the signage and handle the MLS listings. Essentially, while the FSM takes care of the physical state of the property, the AM handles its sale and marketing to potential buyers. Here we focus on the role of the asset manager, Rain and Company, and the specific states they oversee. This is crucial because understanding the geographic scope of management helps us grasp the scale and regional focus of their operations. As you can see, Rain and Company is responsible for managing assets across multiple states, ensuring consistent oversight and strategic management in each location. This setup allows for tailored approaches that address the unique market conditions and regulatory environments in these states, which is key to maintaining and growing the asset portfolio effectively. Now, let's focus on the role of the selling agent in the HUD process. This section will cover the responsibilities and importance of the selling agent, helping us understand how they fit into the overall HUD workflow. Let's dive into what makes their role crucial and how they contribute to a successful transaction. The selling agents play a vital role in the success of the HUD sales program. Understanding their responsibilities and impact will help us see how the entire process is supported and driven forward. This section will dive into why selling agents are so crucial and how they contribute to achieving the program's goals. First, to submit a bid for your buyer, the broker must obtain a NAID. This identifier is crucial because individual agents within that brokerage will then use this same NAID. It's important to note that agents need to register for an account under the NAID before submitting a bid, as this cannot be altered once the bid is in. Finally, a key reminder: a NAID is assigned to the brokerage, not to each individual agent. This structure ensures clarity and proper tracking throughout the process. The application page for the NAID can be found on the HUD Home Store website. To begin the application process, you'll want to click on the NAID portal link, which is clearly available in the navigation menu. This portal is your gateway to accessing and managing applications related to HUD Homes. The search bar labeled "Find a HUD Home" is also prominently displayed, making it easy to look for specific properties if needed. Overall, this page is designed to streamline your experience by putting all key tools and links right at your fingertips. When submitting your application, there are several key documents you'll need to provide. First, include your DBA name and address to clearly identify your business. Next, be sure to supply accurate contact information, including a name, email, and phone number, so we can reach you easily. IRS documentation, such as a W-9 showing your business name or your individual tax identification number, is also required to verify your tax status. Additionally, you must provide a copy of the principal broker's driver's license as a form of personal identification. Proof of residence is necessary as well, which can be demonstrated with a recent bank statement, phone bill, or utility bill. Finally, the principal broker's real estate license must be submitted to confirm proper licensure. All of these elements together ensure your application is complete and meets our requirements for processing. When it comes to purchasing a HUD home, almost all groups of buyers are eligible. First, we have owner-occupants. These are individuals who intend to live in the home as their primary residence. Then, there are investors who are looking to purchase homes for investment purposes. Nonprofit organizations can also buy HUD homes, typically to use for community development or affordable housing projects. The Good Neighbor Next Door program is designed to help law enforcement officers, teachers, firefighters, and emergency medical technicians buy homes at a significant discount. Lastly, government agencies themselves can purchase HUD homes for public use or assistance programs. These categories ensure that HUD homes are allocated to those who need them most or can make good use of them for community benefit. When it comes to buying a HUD home, there are specific restrictions that buyers need to be aware of. First, HUD listing brokers themselves are not allowed to purchase these homes. This restriction also extends to their agents. Any agents directly affiliated with those brokers cannot buy HUD properties either. Additionally, immediate relatives of both brokers and agents are also excluded from purchasing HUD homes. Beyond that, all agents within the brokerage are subject to this exclusion, no matter which states they serve through the NAID. Finally, even employees within the brokerage who don't handle HUD listings directly are still considered restricted from purchasing these homes. These rules ensure fairness and prevent conflicts of interest in the buying process. Here we will explain the key criteria for an owner-occupant buyer. First, during HUD's exclusive listing period, these buyers are given priority, which means they get the first opportunity to purchase the property. This is an important benefit that can really help owner-occupants secure a home before it goes on the broader market. Next, there is an occupancy requirement. The buyer must commit to living in the home for at least 1 year. This ensures that the property is used as a primary residence rather than an investment. Lastly, there is a purchase restriction. The buyer cannot have purchased any HUD home as an owner-occupant in the past 24 months. This rule helps maintain fairness and prevents frequent flipping of HUD homes. Together, these points define who qualifies as an owner-occupant buyer and help promote stable homeownership. Now, we'll move on to explore the investor's purchase process. Understanding this process is crucial to better align our strategies with investor behavior and improve overall engagement. Let's dive into the details. Let's look at the key points related to investors' bids. First, when it comes to bid timing, investors have the advantage of being able to place bids during the extended listing period, which can provide more opportunities to secure a property. Moving on to purchase limits, there are no restrictions on the number of homes an investor can buy, allowing for increased flexibility and portfolio growth. Lastly, it's important to highlight that individuals purchasing second homes, such as vacation properties, are also classified as investors in this context. These distinctions help clarify who qualifies as an investor and the conditions under which they can operate. This section highlights the HUD special program called Good Neighbor Next Door, or GNND. The purpose of this initiative is to encourage community revitalization by offering law enforcement officers, firefighters, emergency medical technicians, and teachers the chance to buy homes in the neighborhoods where they work. This not only supports these essential workers, but also helps renew and strengthen those areas. One of the key benefits of the program is a substantial discount. Participants receive 50% off the list price of eligible properties. However, this discount is contingent upon the purchaser living in the home for at least 3 years, with the savings prorated over that 36-month period. This structure ensures that the program promotes long-term community investment by these professionals. Let's go over the key requirements of the HUD Special Program, Good Neighbor Next Door, or GNND. First, the location requirement. The property has to be in a designated revitalization area, which means not every HUD property qualifies. So, location really matters here. Next, the buyer must commit to living in the home for at least 36 months. This occupancy requirement ensures that participants are genuinely invested in the community. Another important point is the ownership restriction. Neither the buyer nor their spouse can have owned a property in the last 12 months. This keeps the program targeted to those who are truly entering homeownership. Additionally, the GNND program can only be used once by a purchaser. So, once you've taken advantage of it, you can't use it again. Finally, there's the second mortgage requirement. HUD requires buyers to sign a second mortgage and note for the discount amount. This arrangement is overseen by HUD's loan servicing contractor to ensure everything is properly managed. These requirements are designed to promote community revitalization and help qualified buyers become homeowners in these key areas. When you want to know if a property is available for bidding, there are several key indicators to look for. First, you'll see a listing agent sign in the yard, which clearly marks that the property is active. Next, the property will be listed in the MLS, making it visible to agents and buyers. Additionally, the property is also listed on the official HUD website, hudhomestore.gov, where you can get more detailed information. When it comes to submitting your bid, all offers need to be submitted through the HUD Home Store system, ensuring a centralized and secure process. Once a bid is awarded, the property listing is removed from the system, and disclosures will no longer be accessible online for agents. Therefore, it's important for agents to download all relevant disclosures at the time they submit their bid to avoid missing critical information. Here we see an example of a house listing on HUD Home Store. The property price, features, and a spacious front view, complete with a wide driveway and a large yard, highlighting its curb appeal. What's important to note here are the bid period details, which let potential buyers know the time frame within which they can place their offers. This setup provides a straightforward and attractive presentation of the property, making it easy for interested buyers to get all the essential information at a glance. Now, we're moving into an important section where we'll dive into the property information related to HUD Home Store. This part will give us a thorough understanding of the key details and characteristics of the properties we're discussing, helping to set the foundation for the next topics. Let's focus closely on the essential facts and data points that define these properties. Let's take a closer look at some important details about the property, starting with the listing period. This tells us the time frame during which the property is available on the market, which is crucial for planning viewings or making offers. Next, we have financing options. Understanding the types of financing available helps potential buyers know what kind of financial support they can access, whether it's a mortgage, loan, or other funding arrangements. Moving on to the indoor amenities, these features enhance comfort and convenience inside the home, such as modern appliances, HVAC systems, or smart home technologies. Outdoor amenities come next, highlighting spaces like gardens, patios, or recreational areas that add value and lifestyle benefits to the property. Finally, the foundation type is a key structural detail that affects the property's stability and longevity. Knowing this helps assess the building's durability and any potential maintenance requirements. Together, these points give a well-rounded view of what the property offers and supports informed decisions for buyers. Here, we see the key point about the bidding process on HUD Home Store. It's important to submit your bid before the offer selection date, which is also called the bid open date. This is the deadline when RAIN will review all submitted bids and decide which ones to award. Missing this date means your offer won't be considered, so be sure to get your bid in on time. The image shows an example listing with all relevant details, emphasizing the need to act promptly. Here we can see on the right the bidding details that reveal how many hours remain to place bids and which types of buyers are eligible to participate. This system, referred to as HUD Home Store, helps keep the bidding process transparent and organized, ensuring everyone knows the deadline and their eligibility status. It's an efficient way to manage offers and keep the process moving smoothly toward a successful sale. Now, let's discuss the timing of bid submissions. If bid awards are submitted in HUD Home Store on the same day the offer is awarded, they won't be considered, even if the bid is higher. This rule ensures fairness and maintains a clear deadline for submissions. Next, let's look at an example scenario. Imagine a bid is submitted on Monday morning, but the bid award isn't finalized until later that day for a lower, though still acceptable, amount. This situation helps illustrate how timing and bid amounts come into play when decisions are made. Finally, the system action is important to understand. If a bid is received after the deadline, the system will automatically wipe out that bid from that day, meaning it won't be countered or considered. This automated action enforces the deadline strictly to keep the process transparent and efficient. Here we have 4 key financing types related to property insurability under FHA guidelines. First, when a property meets FHA 203(b) financing requirements with no obvious repairs needed, we categorize it as IN or insurable. This means the buyer can obtain an FHA loan without concerns about property condition. Next, we have IE, which stands for insurable with escrow. In this case, the property qualifies for a 203(b) loan but requires repairs that are financed by the buyer through a repair escrow or a 203(k) loan. These repairs are addressed after the purchase, allowing financing to proceed despite the property's current condition. Then, there's UI, meaning uninsurable. Here, the property requires more extensive repairs that must be completed before mortgage insurance can be granted. These repairs cannot be done until after closing, making the property ineligible for FHA insurance at that time. Finally, an important note, insurability for financing depends largely on the buyer's appraisal. Also, repairs noted on the property listing disclosure may not cover all required minimum property requirements, so it's essential to review appraisals and disclosures carefully when determining financing options. Here we have some important property condition codes that are commonly used in real estate documentation. The first code, F, stands for flood zone. This indicates that the property is located in an area where lenders require national flood insurance, which is a crucial factor for buyers to consider in flood-prone areas. Next, we have HOA, which refers to properties covered by a homeowners association. This means there are fees or dues that owners must pay, which is essential to factor into overall property costs. Lastly, LBP denotes lead-based paint. This applies to properties built before 1978, highlighting the potential presence of lead paint and the necessity of an addendum for disclosure and safety. Understanding these codes helps clarify important conditions and requirements tied to a property. Here, we have 4 key listing periods to consider. First, the lottery phase. It signifies the initial time frame where properties are entered into a selection process. Next is the exclusive period, indicating a time when listings are reserved or available only to certain buyers. Following that, the extended period, a period when listings continue beyond their original time frame, allowing for additional opportunities. Finally, the dollar period, emphasizing financial considerations throughout the listing life cycle. Together, these elements provide a clear overview of the different stages and their significance. Now let's look at each period closely, starting with the key aspects of the lottery period. First, the lottery itself lasts for 7 days, giving interested parties a clear and defined time frame to participate. Next, during this period, uninsured properties are prioritized and listed first, followed by insured properties located in revitalization areas. This prioritization helps to streamline the process and address specific community needs. Finally, it's important to note that only HUD-approved nonprofits, government agencies, and GNND are eligible to access lottery properties, ensuring these assets go to organizations aligned with our mission. The image of the calendar and pencil underscores the importance of timing and organization throughout this process. Here we have an overview of the exclusive bidding period, which is structured to manage bids on properties in a controlled way. First, during this exclusive time frame, no investor bids are allowed, ensuring the initial stage is clear of competitive pressure. For insured properties that are outside revitalization areas, they remain exclusive for 30 days, giving potential buyers a dedicated window to place their offers. Uninsured properties, on the other hand, have a shorter exclusive period of 5 days, reflecting their different risk profile. The first bid opening happens on the morning of the 11th day, excluding weekends and holidays, and from that point onward, bids open each morning. If no bids are accepted during this exclusive period, the property then moves forward to an extended listing period, allowing more opportunities for sale. This structured process helps maintain fairness and clarity throughout the bidding stages. HUD released Mortgagee Letter 2025-13 on April 28, 2025, which introduces important updates regarding the exclusive listing periods for properties. These new provisions take effect for all HUD REO properties listed for sale on or after May 30th, 2025. For properties marketed as insured or insured with escrow, the exclusive listing period is set at 15 days. In contrast, properties marketed as uninsured have a shorter exclusive listing period of 5 days. Additionally, the first bid opening will occur on the next business day following 10 days of sealed bidding, and subsequent openings will take place each morning after that. These changes are designed to streamline the process and ensure clarity in listing timelines. Now, we're moving on to discuss the extended bidding period. In this phase, bids are opened each morning, which helps maintain a steady and transparent process. It's important to note that this happens every day except on weekends, allowing for consistent updates while giving participants time to regroup over the weekend. This approach ensures fairness and allows everyone a clear window to submit their bids thoughtfully. Let's dive deeper into how this impacts the overall bidding strategy. Let's review on the key components you need to enter when submitting bids. First, the offer sales price is the starting point. This is the amount you're proposing to pay for the property. Next, the type of financing plays a crucial role, as it determines how the purchase will be funded. Then we have closing costs, which are fees covered by HUD if requested by the buyer, typically up to 3%. Following that, both the selling agent commission and the listing agent commission can each be up to 3%, representing the fees paid to the real estate professionals involved. Lastly, we consider the net to HUD, which is the final amount HUD receives after all costs and commissions. And don't forget, the buyer type is also an important factor to specify. To submit your offer, simply log into your account on HUD Home Store. Each of these elements is essential to ensuring your bid is complete and competitive. To submit your bid, the process can be broken down into 3 straightforward steps. First, you need to provide the buyer's complete name, which is essential for preparing the deed accurately. Next, submit the buyer's social security number as required for verification and legal purposes. Finally, specify the vesting for the buyer, which will be placed on the deed to clearly define ownership. Following these steps carefully ensures your bid is complete and properly documented. Let's talk about closing costs first. These costs are recorded on line 5 of the sales contract. HUD permits up to 3% of the purchase price to be allocated toward closing costs, which covers fees from the buyer select closing agent. It's important to note that the buyer is responsible for any fees that aren't included in the bid, as well as any fees that exceed the amount specified on line 5 of the contract. Moving on to commissions, these are entered on lines 6A and 6B of the sales contract. HUD will pay up to 3% of the purchase price to the selling agent, based on the buyer's commission agreement. Additionally, HUD automatically pays 3% of the purchase price to the listing broker. This ensures that both agents involved in the transaction are compensated appropriately. Understanding these points helps clarify how costs and commissions are structured in the contract. Here, we're looking at the costs that HUD covers at closing, but it's important to remember that these must be supported by proper invoices. The first item is property tax proration, which means the property taxes are divided fairly between the buyer and seller based on the closing date. Next, we have utility bills tied to the property. These need to be settled, but this does not include any fees related to the home inspection. Then, there are the Homeowners Association dues, which cover the monthly or annual fees required by the HOA. Lastly, there's a note on fees in general. All fees are subject to review, meaning HUD will carefully examine each one before approval. The image here emphasizes the importance of checking and verifying each cost thoroughly to ensure everything is accurate. Let's talk about earnest money and some important policies around it. First, it's essential that the payment method uses certified funds payable to the BSCA, but these funds are delivered through the listing agent to ensure proper handling. Next, it's crucial to understand the HUD forfeiture of earnest money and extension policy. Both you and your buyer should be familiar with these rules to know when and how earnest money can be forfeited or extended. Now, when it comes to investors, the policy is strict. investors will forfeit the entire earnest money deposit no matter the reason for cancellation. This highlights the importance of being certain before proceeding. On the other hand, owner-occupants have a more flexible policy. They can receive all or a portion of their earnest money back under specific circumstances, providing some leniency compared to investors. Understanding these distinctions is key to navigating the earnest money process smoothly. Let's go over the key points regarding bid reviews and awards. First, there are no restrictions on when bids can be submitted. The system operates continuously without shutting down. However, bids submitted on a Friday through Sunday timeframe will be reviewed on the next business day, since reviews do not occur on weekends or federal holidays. The daily bid deadline is 11:59 p.m. Central Time, so all bids must be in by then to be processed that day. Importantly, bids submitted during the Friday to Sunday period will be reviewed simultaneously, with no preference given based on the specific day of submission. When it comes to awarding, the highest net to HUD will be recognized within the HUD 2014 system. Awards remain visible under bid results for 14 days on the HUD Home store site. If two identical bids are received for the same opening period, the system resolves this through an internal lottery to determine the award recipient. These procedures ensure a fair and transparent review and award process. Here we're looking at the concept of counteroffers, which is a critical part of the negotiation process. First, when an offer falls within an acceptable range, it will be countered with an approved net to HUD. This means that any reasonable proposal won't be outright rejected, but carefully adjusted to meet specific approval guidelines. Secondly, it's important to respond strategically. Your bid isn't the only one being countered, so it's essential to come back with your best possible offer. Thoughtful responses can significantly improve your chances of success in a competitive environment. So, focusing on both understanding acceptable thresholds and crafting strong counter responses is key here. Now let's look at the timelines outlined in line 9 of the sales contract. First, for owner-occupants using FHA or conventional financing, the typical closing period is 45 days. For those using 203K financing, which involves renovation loans, the closing timeline extends to 60 days to accommodate the additional steps involved. Cash closings are the quickest, often completing within just 30 days. Investors who are using conventional financing generally have a 45-day timeline for closing, similar to owner-occupants. It's important to note that if the closing isn't scheduled before the contract expires, an extension must be submitted for review to prevent cancellation. These timelines are crucial to ensure smooth transactions and keep everyone on the same page. When working with a buyer-select closing agent, the first important step is to confirm that your chosen VSCA has a title ID registered with HUD. This ensures they are officially recognized and authorized to handle the closing process. If you haven't selected a VSCA yet, you can easily search for one on the HUD Home Store website under the Find Agents section. This tool helps you locate qualified agents quickly and reliably. By following these steps, you can be confident that your closing agent is properly vetted and ready to assist with your transaction. When a bid is awarded, you will receive a notification directly through both the HUD Home Store and RAIN notification systems. This ensures that you're promptly informed and can take any necessary next steps without delay. Keeping these notifications enabled is important so you won't miss any updates related to your bid status. Now, we're moving on to an important part of our discussion, the electronic contract process, specifically focusing on e-signatures. This section will cover how digital signatures are transforming the way we handle contracts, making the process faster, more secure, and highly efficient. We'll look at the key steps involved, the technology behind e-signatures, and best practices to ensure compliance and validity. Let's dive into how electronic contracts can streamline your workflow and reduce paperwork. First, you need to log in to the HUD Home Store system using your credentials. Once you're logged in, the next step is to view the accepted bids related to your task. After reviewing the bids, you'll open the checklist to ensure all necessary items and criteria are accounted for. Finally, and most importantly, you verify that all the information is accurate before proceeding to apply your electronic signature. This step-by-step process ensures a smooth and secure e-signature workflow. Here we have an overview of the purchaser verification interface. This screen allows users to verify purchaser information efficiently by using the checkmark buttons to confirm details. It also provides options to save any changes made or edit the purchaser's information if needed. One important feature you'll notice is the date verified, which helps track when the verification was last completed, ensuring the data remains current and accurate. This interface is designed to make the verification process straightforward and reliable. Here, we focus on the process of submitting the escrow money deposit, EMD, check copy. It's important to upload a clear copy of your EMD check directly to the checklist. Keep in mind, while the digital copy ensures we have a record, the original check must be delivered to the listing agent within 2 business days. This 2-step submission helps maintain a smooth transaction and confirms that all parties have the necessary documentation on time. Make sure to double-check that the copy is legible before uploading to avoid any delays. Now let's go over the next steps for the e-signature process. First, after you submit your documents, they will be carefully reviewed by the asset manager and RAIN. If everything looks good and no corrections are needed, the DocuSign envelope will be sent to you for signing. However, if there are any issues or corrections required, you will receive an email notification outlining what needs to be fixed. You'll also be given a specific time frame to submit those corrections. It's important to address these promptly because if corrections are not made within the allotted time, a bid cancellation will be initiated. This process helps ensure everything is accurate and moves smoothly to the next stage. You will receive an email from DocuSign with a link to the contract package. The contract envelope is signed consecutively in a specific order, ensuring each party completes their part step by step. First, the selling agent reviews the document. Their role is simply to check the contract, and if no changes are necessary, they select Finish to move the process along. Next, the broker, buyer or buyers, title company, and RAIN each sign the contract in turn. Finally, once the entire contract is fully executed, all parties will receive a final notification email from DocuSign containing a link to the fully executed contract. This ensures everyone stays informed and has access to the completed agreement. Now, moving on to an important resource you'll need, the e-signature reference guide. This guide is conveniently located alongside the property listing disclosures on HUD Home Store. Remember, it's essential to print this guide before the award process begins, so you have all the necessary information readily available. This will help ensure that all electronic signature procedures are done correctly and in compliance with our standards. Let's begin by discussing the requirements for properties built prior to 1978 that have FHA financing on the sales contract. For these properties, a lead-based paint, or LBP, inspection is mandatory. This inspection helps us understand if there's any lead paint hazard present. Next, if the inspection results are positive and the estimated cost to stabilize the lead paint is under $4,000, stabilization work will be ordered to ensure the property is safe. Now, when it comes to remediation options, if the cost exceeds $4,000, the buyer has several choices. They can switch to a cash purchase, opt for conventional financing, continue with 203K financing, or even submit a cancellation if they decide not to proceed. Finally, for those using 203K financing, there is a credit available at closing to cover the estimated cost of LBP stabilization as outlined in HUD's inspection report. However, this credit cannot exceed $4,000. This provision helps ease the financial burden related to addressing lead paint issues in eligible properties. Let's go through the key points related to home inspection. First, the due diligence period is 15 days for owner-occupants starting from the date RAIN signs the contract. This timeframe is crucial for completing all necessary inspections and evaluations. Next, FSM authorization is required to turn on the utilities during the inspection process. You can find the necessary forms, costs, and guidelines on their website. Regarding inspection costs, these fees must be covered by the buyer. It's important to budget for these expenses ahead of time. After the inspection, utilities must be turned off, so make sure to manage this carefully to avoid any issues. Finally, an agent must accompany the buyers and inspectors while they're at the property to ensure everything goes smoothly and aligns with protocol. These steps help facilitate a thorough and efficient inspection process. As we begin, I want to emphasize a crucial point. No repairs can be made before closing. This means that any issues identified must be acknowledged and resolved through other means until the transaction is finalized. The image of the hammer ready to strike captures the seriousness and finality of this stage. It's important to understand this to avoid any misunderstandings or delays later on. Let's keep this rule in mind as we move forward. When it comes to extensions on the sales contract, there are several important points to keep in mind. First, the selling agent must initiate the extension request through the HUD Homes store account at least 5 days before the contract expiration date. This ensures there's enough time to process the request properly. Owner-occupants have a special consideration. The fee for the 6th extension will be waived if the delay is due to financing issues. Speaking of financing, 2 fee-waived extensions may also be granted specifically for 203K loan financing delays, although changes to 203K financing after contract execution might not qualify for both free extensions. Certain delays are covered, like those caused by HUD, rain, FSM, or title issues, and will be granted a waived extension automatically. However, it's important to note that extensions are not guaranteed. Each request will be reviewed and approved by RAIN. Finally, any extension granted will be in increments of 15 days only. This policy helps keep the process structured and timely. These key details help manage expectations and ensure smooth handling of contract extensions when closing can occur on time. Now let's go over the key details regarding extension fees when they are required. First, the fee must be submitted directly to the asset manager's office before any approval of charged extensions takes place. It's important to note that fees won't be accepted at the BSCA office or through the listing agent. Next, these fees must be in the form of certified funds to ensure secure processing. Also, payments need to be made payable to HUD, not to the asset manager, which is a common point of confusion. If there are unused days in the extension, those days will be prorated back to the buyer at closing, so they won't be paying for time they didn't use. Finally, if the contract is canceled, the extension fees are non-refundable, so it's crucial to consider this before submitting payment. These points are essential to keeping the extension process smooth and compliant. First, you need to submit your cancellation request through the HUD Homes store account. This is the official way to start the cancellation process and helps ensure the contract does not expire unexpectedly. Next, be sure to include all the required supporting documentation with your request. Providing complete paperwork is crucial to avoid delays or issues during the review. Once your cancellation request and documents are submitted, RAIN will thoroughly review the cancellation paperwork and confirm what will happen with the earnest money. It's important to understand that if the cancellation leads to forfeiture, BSCA cannot deduct fees from the earnest money, so you should be fully aware of this policy. Finally, to avoid any automatic cancellation or penalties, never let the contract expire without formally submitting a cancellation. Keeping track of the expiration date and acting before then will protect you from unintended obligations. These 5 steps together form the essential workflow to properly manage contract cancellations. Let's walk through the key steps involved in managing contract modifications and amendments. First, the selling agent starts by navigating to raincompany.com and clicking on the login button at the top right corner, which directs them to the RAMP system. Once logged in, the next step is to click on the Contract Mods option at the top and select Add to initiate a new modification. After that, the agent needs to complete the information on the screen and click Save to record the changes. Finally, supporting documentation must be submitted to validate the change. However, this step hasn't been automated yet within HUD Home Store, so it requires a manual submission. On the right, you can see the software interface showing the navigation bar and options like Contract Mods and the Add button, which helps visualize the process as it unfolds. These steps ensure proper tracking and approval of contract changes. When requesting a contract amendment, it's essential to attach all supporting documents up front. These documents will be carefully reviewed, and you'll receive a response based on that review. This step helps smooth the process and ensures clarity for all parties involved. Regarding financing, any changes that occur after the loan best practices review or termite inspections can lead to costs for the buyer. These costs will be clearly indicated on the closing statement, so it's important to be aware of potential financial adjustments as the process progresses. Now that we've covered the contract process, it's time to shift our focus and ask ourselves, are we prepared for closing? This section will guide us through the essential steps and considerations to ensure a smooth and successful closing process. Let's dive in and make sure everything is aligned for a strong finish. When preparing for closing, there are two key activities to focus on. First, we have the fee requests. BSCA will gather all the necessary information regarding HOA fees, taxes, utilities, and any other demands to ensure everything is accounted for when we close. This helps avoid surprises and keeps the process smooth. Next is the invoice review. Any delinquent invoices need to be forwarded to RAIN at least 10 days before closing. This gives enough time to address and resolve any outstanding issues, so everything is settled properly before the final steps. Both of these activities are crucial for a seamless closing process. When it comes to making payments on behalf of HUD or RAIN, it's very important to understand our reimbursement policy. Reimbursement cannot be expected if payments are made without prior approval from the appropriate authorities. This means that paying utility bills, HA invoices for assessment letters, or violation fines without getting the proper authorization ahead of time will not be reimbursed. This rule applies to everyone involved in the process: selling agents, listing agents, and even the BSCA. The key takeaway here is to always seek approval before making any payments to avoid any financial loss or complications. When it comes to closing documents, the BSCA takes care of preparing all the essential paperwork you'll need. This includes important items like the HUD-1, settlement statement, closing disclosure, and the deed itself. We handle this to ensure everything is accurate and ready for your closing. On the submission side, it's crucial to upload all closing documents to RAIN using the BSCA Yardi portal at least 7 days before your closing date. For example, if your closing is scheduled for a Friday, you should submit your documents by the previous Friday. This timeline helps keep everything on track and avoids any last-minute issues. When planning your pre-closing walkthrough, it's best to schedule it either the day before or on the day of closing. This timing allows you to verify that everything in the property is as expected before you finalize the sale. During this walkthrough, if you come across any concerns or issues with the property, it's important to reach out to RAIN immediately for assistance. Addressing these property concerns promptly can help avoid complications and ensure a smoother closing process. After closing, there are several important steps to ensure a smooth transition for the buyer. First, the buyer needs to activate the utilities so they have power, water, and other essential services in their new home. Next, the agent and broker play a crucial role in coordinating the buyer's access to the property, making sure everything is managed properly. One critical security measure is that the buyer must rekey the locks after closing. This step is essential to protect their new home. If the locks are not rekeyed, it creates a security risk because multiple people may still have keys, which compromises the buyer's safety. Taking these steps seriously helps ensure the buyer's peace of mind and security in their new property. After the closing, the first critical step is the complete documentation submission. BSCA promptly submits the full closing package to RAIN for their review. This ensures that every required document is accurate and complete, which is essential to properly finalize the entire process. This step helps maintain transparency and keeps everything on track moving forward. I want to highlight this powerful message from RAIN Asset Management Services. Their appreciation, saying thank you for selling HUD Homes, really emphasizes the impact and importance of our work in this area. It's a simple statement, but it speaks volumes about the value we bring to the community and our partners. This acknowledgement motivates us to continue our efforts with dedication and excellence. This quote, "Empowering communities, one home at a time," really captures the heart of what we're striving to achieve. It's about more than just building houses. It's about creating strong, resilient communities where people can thrive. Every home represents a foundation for growth, stability, and empowerment. By focusing on individual homes, we're making a lasting impact that extends beyond bricks and mortar. It's about fostering a sense of belonging and support within the community. This approach emphasizes the importance of small, meaningful actions contributing to larger, positive change.